some of the ideology would be similar. They both were giants in the sense that they both won the Nobel Peace Prize because they were men pursuing peace within our world. They both championed, as I said, the rights of the poor and oppressed. And whenever there were human rights violations, they would be both champions in that regard. They both were tremendously educated men. So there are quite a number of parallels between the two. And perhaps also they both were fathers.
Do you think that the struggle for justice in South Africa and the civil rights movement here in the United States had many things in common?
Well, they're actually it's different sets of circumstances. In the United States, African Americans were in the minority, and so it was a fraction of the population saying that we wanted to acquire rights just as everyone else. Whereas in South Africa, you had the majority of black South Africans who were oppressed by a minority of whites. So there were some differences, but there were some similarities in terms of segregation. And so all of those are barriers that had to be broken down. So while there are some similarities, they're two different types of movements. Ultimately, getting rid of apartheid, in a sense, certainly is the same as getting, or there's similarities to getting rid of racism throughout our world.
And what do you make of the fact that President Mandela had so much empathy in him? He was ready to understand and appreciate the fears that white South Africans had. He went out of his way. When we look at what he did in the sports arena, you know, he went and championed the game of rugby, which was the game that was seen at the time, arguably, as the game of the oppressor.
Well, that is absolutely correct. But that was a brilliant strategy as well as a belief that Mr. Mandela possessed, understanding that we must find ways to build as many bridges as possible. That's the only way that the nation will move forward. We can't just disengage from everything. And certainly around the concept of sports, people can, in fact, be brought together throughout our planet.
President Obama here in the United States said in remarks shortly after the death of Nelson Mandela was announced, he said, "We are not likely to see the likes of Mandela again." Do you share that sentiment?
Well, I think that perhaps not in our lifetime. Certainly, none of us could ever say, certainly perhaps there would be another Mandela, another Martin Luther King, or another Gandhi that comes to our world. I don't know that we will see the likes of those gentlemen in our lifetime.